Hey guys, it's Jenny from Southern Savers. It's Monday night and our weekly Q&A. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. Having some internet issues tonight, so hopefully we don't have issues staying live. But if I do disappear, just stick with me and hopefully I'll come back. So tonight, my plan is for us to cover all things saving, retirement, savings accounts, interest rates, how to get more money in your savings accounts. That's our goal. So as we dive in, feel free to ask questions that are on or off topic. I am 100% okay with off topic. So ask away in anything that you have questions on. I know we didn't do a Q&A last week. We were at a family camp with all of our kids. So in terms of bad internet, it was really bad internet. But hopefully tonight we will be good. So we're going to dive right in. And with savings, retirement, the first big thing I want to hit on is as we talk about different accounts or how much money needs to be in accounts, I fully understand that this doesn't make money grow on trees, right? Someone can tell you to have 6 months in an emergency fund, but that feels impossible. So don't look at this really big picture. Let's set little goals and work on achieving them. And really, guys, this is like anything else we do in life, right? I am not going to go out and decide tomorrow to run a marathon. I wouldn't be able to run halfway down my driveway. Now, my driveway is like a mile long, but I couldn't even do that. So I would never try to cover 10 mile, anything like that. So our view of savings needs to be little bite-sized chunks as well. So do not let that whatever advice is that someone's given you, 6 months here, you need to max out this, and then feel like, well, I can't do any of that. And so you don't even start. No, we want to put whatever we can in some sort of savings. Anything that you are saving is better than nothing. So don't let that kind of just discouragement hold you back from getting started. So as we talk about various accounts here, please realize I get that it's a long game. This is not this month, let's knock out 6 months worth of emergency. No one is doing that. Okay, well, there may be somebody, right? Jeff Bezos, he can do that in like 5 minutes. But the rest of us, 6 months worth of expenses in a rainy day fund could take you a couple of years to achieve. So please don't be discouraged and keep that from getting you in at least started in some manner. Now, first up is emergency savings. That is where we want to start. And it really, a lot of folks have different key amounts. You'll see people say 1 to 2 months worth of expenses in this rainy day fund. That's still a lot of money for most families. That's still upwards of maybe even $3,000 for some of us. So that's not going to happen overnight. I would say little goals. Let's get enough to handle your insurance deductible in a rainy day fund. That needs to be the first goal. That's not $3,000 for most of us. For some of you, it's $500. For us, it's $1,000. The higher your deductible, the lower your insurance rates. So whatever your car deductible or your house deductible, you're trying to make it where if somebody hit your car tomorrow and they didn't have insurance, you can handle what has to be paid to get the car fixed, right? I've got to be able to get to work. So I need to be able to have that money if I can. So that's goal number one in my book. Let's not look at that $2,000, $3,000 couple months of expenses goal. That's a really big goal. Let's just handle the insurance deductible to get started. Putting that into a savings account. So a lot of folks will also say, oh, you need to have this in your checking account. That's a really bad place to store money for 2 reasons. If money is being stored in your checking account, you're going to spend it. It's right there. It's so super simple to spend. You will spend it. So no money is stored in your checking account, just the money that you need to pay the bills and enough to make sure you don't run out and end up with some banking fees, right? All other money needs to be in a savings account, even better in a high yield savings account that is not attached to your bank. So now you need a local bank account, but you really need an online savings account. And I've been pushing this for years, so I'm hoping some of you already have this account. You're like, yep, Jenny, you told me to do this. I did it 10 years ago. That would make me so happy. For an online high yield savings account, there's a lot of options. Most of them don't require any sort of minimum balance. So you could literally start with $5 in the savings account. You're not going to pay any monthly fees, but you're going to get a much better interest rate than you would get from your local bank. So to pick on my local bank, we use South State, which is a big bank in the South. I think they're paying like point something interest rate on a checking account right now. You would not want to keep money in your checking account. I don't even think they've hit a full percentage point on savings accounts. Your online high yield savings accounts are upwards of 3.5. It's really going to earn you something. So the savings account that I would recommend right now, there's a lot of them out there, but the one that we are personally using, so it's easy to recommend, is SoFi. That's how I'm going to say it. Sophie. Who knows? SOFI. And I have a way for you to make a little bit extra too. So this is really a double dip, guys. But if you go, and some of you are going to get tired of me saying this, but if you go through Rakuten, you can earn $125 back in cash back for setting up a new checking or savings account with SoFi Banking. Now mine says points because I have my account set to give me American Express points instead of cash. That's a whole nother video. It's $125 back for setting up a new checking or savings account with SoFi right now. That's with no minimum balance, guys. So set up the account, put $100 in it if you can. You just got $125 back in your Rakuten account. That's going to come to you in the form of a check in August. So they pay every 3 months, whatever you've earned through Rakuten. If you've never used Rakuten, I will put in a link in the comments, and you can click through that, and you will also get a sign-up bonus as well with Rakuten. I think it's a $30 bonus right now whenever you spend $30, which this account would be. So back to SoFi. So head to SoFi if you've never created an account. It's very simple to do. Go through Rakuten first. So I clicked the little button. I already have an account. So it's not going to give me an extra $125 here, but you get the idea. When you create an account, you can also get up to a $300 bonus from SoFi. So one is really from Rakuten, one is really from SoFi. Now the $300 bonus, I'm going to go ahead and just break it to you. Most of us are not going to get that. It's really going to be a $50 bonus for if you can put up to $1,000 in there. So let's say you already have money in a savings account and you just decide to move it all because 3.8% interest is way better than your local bank. As long as you put up $1,000 in, you're going to get $50 back from SoFi for creating a new account. If you want to achieve the $300 bonus from them, it's a $5,000 deposit, which most of us probably don't have that kind of money to move around. So, I don't want you to get super excited about that $300 that you see, but do get excited about that 3.8% interest rate. So with SoFi, to keep the 3.8% interest rate, you do have to have a direct deposit set up. So, and that's really my next tip for you in terms of getting more money into savings, is actually having your savings automated. So that's an easy way. You're going to automate it. You're getting more money in savings, but you're also doing it to encourage yourself to get that higher interest rate. So as long as I have a direct deposit set up to that account, I earn 3.8% interest every single month on my SoFi account. Now, how you can do that the easiest way, most HR departments can, and guys, I have like a couple of people who work for me and I still have this ability. So I'm going to say most HR departments have the ability to deposit a paycheck into multiple accounts. So you actually could go to HR and say, hey, I want $200 every pay period put into this savings account, and give them the routing number just like you would to set up a new direct deposit anywhere else. And then I want the rest of my paycheck. It's very simple to do. And now for you, when your paycheck hits your checking account, you'll honestly, after a few months, kind of forget that you're saving money. It's actually a pretty marvelous thing when you log in to your online savings account and you're like, oh, that's right. We have this direct deposited and I'm putting away $200 or $100 every pay period. Pretty sweet. Now your HR department can take that super low. So if you can't even handle that amount, that's okay. I do think to earn that 3.8% with SoFi, it does have to be a direct deposit of a certain amount per month. So do look at the fine print and make sure to earn that one. If you don't want to go with SoFi, the other place that I would tell you to look, there is a website called Bankrate. And Bankrate is very simple to use, but this is a great one if you're ever just trying to research a new CD, a new high yield savings account. Keep in mind, some of these accounts are paying to be listed with them, but they do a good job of keeping the basics of what you need to know there. So for example, I can immediately see and compare these annual percentage rates across multiple banks. I can also compare that minimum balance. So this guy right here, which is CIT Bank, it may look exciting at that 4.1 and you may think, wow, that's better than that SoFi rate, but look at that minimum balance. Again, we're all back to, most of us probably don't have $5,000 to just sit in a savings account. So you want to look at, the whole picture there, that interest rate, that minimum balance, get an idea, and don't look at some of these others, right? I don't care about that 0.1% from Bank of America. I want that high yield savings account. So that is where we're going to put our rainy day fund. If you want to break that into multiple accounts, you can, and that would be something to look at as you choose a bank. Do they allow you to set multiple goals or multiple little buckets? SoFi does. So if you want to have one SoFi account, but then you say, you know what, I want 2,000 of this to be in my emergency fund. I want 1,000 to be our vacation fund. You can do that still inside that same account. So that's our first basics. I do want to jump back and look at comments. So sorry guys to just kind of dive in there. I was a little frazzled with not having good internet when we first got started. And Lily says an emergency fund should cover you until your next job. So if you're able to find a job quickly, around 3 months. And I agree. I mean, that would be our ultimate goal, is to aim for that big picture chunk. And some folks even say up to 6 months in cash on hand, meaning in a high yield savings account, not putting into investments. That's still a lot of money to think of, like half your salary in cash. So these would be big long-term goals. We'll set little goals of just sticking with that insurance deductible to get you started and then build up from there for sure. Okay. And oh, good. And Lily's also saying you moved to a separate bank. So it does. So one thing that going to that online bank does, not only is it not attached to your checking account, guys, but when I put money into that online savings account that's not my local bank, it takes 2 to 3 business days for money to move from one account to the other. So there is no, I just really want to buy that, and so I'm going to move the money over to checking, and I've already bought it, but it's going to be fine. It's going to take 2 to 3 days for this money to move. So that impulse decision to buy something kind of has to slow down a little bit. You can't make a rash decision. That money has to move. Definitely not if you're going to write a check for it or use your debit card, right? So it does slow you down a little bit. It's also slowing you down because most of us do regularly check our checking account balances. Now that your savings account's in a different bank, you don't always regularly check that balance. So your brain kind of thinks of it as non-existent and less likely to spend as well. Okay, so that's high yield savings accounts. That's what we want to keep most of our cash funds in. But at the same time, so just because we're saving for these emergency funds doesn't mean that you should put any other form of savings on hold. I actually want you to do multiple things at the same time, which I know is overwhelming if money is already super tight. So we're going to do, again, what you can handle. But if all we did was just work on an emergency fund and we ignored getting started in our works 401k, then we're missing out on some money as well. Maybe you can't go all the way to what your employer match is, but let's try to get whatever we can get into our 401k as well. So maybe you're aiming for $200 a month in your savings account and $100 a month in your 401k. Whatever you can do. I do want you to get that emergency fund built so you can stay a little lower in the 401k for a little bit. But the goal is to get to your employer match in your work 401k, 403b, whatever your work has. If your employer has a retirement program and offers a match, you need to be trying to achieve that point. And you will see a lot of folks say you stop at that point. I agree with them. So everyone has the ability, this is a crazy amount of money, everyone can put up to $23,000 a year into a 401k. Even if you had that, I actually don't think you should. A 401k, a 403b, that is an employer-sponsored retirement plan that you actually don't have full control over. It's your money, yes, but there are a lot of expenses and fees coming out of that account that you have no say in, and a number of them are actually not in your best interest. So your employer, and you can research this one, it doesn't have to be my advice only here, but there are a number of fees that an employer can actually just have no say in, and a number of them are actually not. Your employer, and you can research this one, it doesn't have to be my advice only here, but there are a number of fees that an employer can actually just the cost of the plan. And these plans can get pricey for a couple of reasons, but one of them is that it's a taxes. So this is not always, you don't want to just keep shoving that match else where and the money that's coming control over. So up to your employer match, and then I would, if your employer matches any of your salary, then you try to give up to 5% of your salary. Now, one thing to talk about on a 401k too, as I know that this stresses some people out. You're like, Jenny, really? I can't even afford groceries and you're telling me to put more money into a 401k. How do I do that? So take a small break here before panic hits and do realize that choosing to put money into a 401k, or even in this boat, a traditional IRA, if you have tax liability, meaning you owe taxes at the end of the year, this is actually going to decrease your taxable income. So in the end, it's not dollar for dollar, but it is helping you a little bit. So if I put $3,000 over the course of the year, spread out across all my paychecks into a 401k, that is actually $3,000 less than I am being taxed on. Let's say that you are in a tax bracket of 20%, then you are saving upwards of like $600 in taxes on that amount. So just to kind of put that into perspective, it is not dollar for dollar. You put $3,000 in, but in the end, it doesn't exactly feel like $3,000. Maybe that helps in a small way, but there is a tax savings that you're gonna feel sometimes right away. And Lily says, don't put your emergency fund in a money market. So a lot of that one's a tricky one because high yield savings accounts and money markets, they're now, and that's an interchangeable word. But I do not want to put my emergency fund in a brokerage account. I do not want to put an emergency fund in actual investments. Now, a money market, if you go searching money market and high yield, they just pay interest now. So you do want to look at the fine print, see if there's some kind of limitation on removing money from these accounts if you needed it. Never put your emergency fund in a CD or a brokerage account, though. That is a very good point. Those are not accounts that I can easily get to. I can't control what happens, right? A huge storm came through in our neighborhood on Saturday night, and we were not home. We had come halfway home from camp. Camp was all the way in Pennsylvania. But we knew that we lost power, and when power came back on, we knew that our air conditioner did not come back on. Pennsylvania. But we knew that we lost power, and when power came back on, we knew that our air conditioner did not come back on. We have a Google Nest, so gotta love all that you can see from a hotel room 300, 400 miles away. My immediate thought was, are we coming home to a tree on our house? Like, how big is this? Now, really, guys, it was as simple as my husband unplugged the Nest and plugged it back in, and life was good. But in that moment, you're pondering, how huge is this? If that money is locked down in a CD or in a brokerage account, we're in a really bad spot, right? There's a tree on your house. And the way that insurance works, you are going to pay to remove that tree, and insurance is going to pay you back. They do not. All of you that live in North Carolina, you learned that very fast. My parents, who were stranded up on a mountain outside of Burnsville, North Carolina, I think it took them a month just to get a State Farm adjuster to come out. Their State Farm local office was destroyed. So there was so much going on. So in that month, they had already had to deal with their roof, removing a tree, removing mud. You've got to be able to pay for some of that or put it on a credit card, whatever. But in the end, you don't know that the check is going to come from the insurance company in time for you to have to pay the credit card either. So that's why we want this money in a place where we can touch it. It truly is a rainy day fund when you look at it that way. Okay. We have a storm coming through as we talk about that, the thunder outside. Let's talk 401ks a little bit more. If you are about to start a job or you're going to change jobs in the next year or two, do realize that there have been some changes with business retirement accounts. And if the business that you're going to work for has, I think it's over 50 employees, you will now be automatically enrolled in the retirement account. Usually they're going to ask you how much, but it will be even at a base like 1% automatic enrollment. And a lot of folks don't realize that that's happening. This was a bill that was passed to try to encourage more people to be saving in personal retirement accounts. So just to be on the lookout for that, you may potentially already be in one. You need to make some changes. If that's the case, you need to go in and ask for how is this being invested? What kind of accounts are we putting this money in? Because you do have those choices with a 401k. You do get to decide the maybe mutual funds or a target date plan, whatever you're wanting to do. So they should give you a full spread of all the options, and then you get to make some choices as to how to invest. So they should give you a full spread of all the options, and then you get to make some choices as to how to invest. With that said, this is where a lot of people get super overwhelmed. Please remember that most financial planners they have no cost for you to meet with them. Now, a lot of them are going to try to sell plans or to sell additional things. Some of them, if it's a big financial planner, they charge you to actually manage your funds, but to just meet with them, to just get their advice, no cost whatsoever. And depending on where your investments are, this is actually really, really easy. So we use Schwab accounts, Charles Schwab accounts, and you will actually find that there are Charles Schwab local branches in a number of big cities that have investment advisors there in the office, and you can meet with them completely free. Charles Schwab accounts, completely free to have as well. So an IRA, traditional or Roth, even just a brokerage account, no fees, depending on what you're investing in. No minimum balances, no yearly, annual fees. So these are just some things to consider. If you have no clue how to invest or how to get started, then that may be a big perk. Sit down with, they're paid by Schwab, not by you, and you can get someone's thoughts, someone's tips as to how to get started. Actually do the investing, but you can do that yourself. That's very easy to do on their website or in the app, but they're too. So it's a very simple way to get started. Okay, and Lily's saying for some folks, yeah, it automatically enrolls at the match, and from a government standpoint, it's and then in up to 10%. So do make sure that you at least know where they're going there, because that could really get you if you didn't realize that you were going all the way to 10% with an increase. But that is what that law or what that new bill had passed. I don't know if all the features of that bill passed either, but bits and pieces of it definitely did. Stacy, let's jump to your off-topic question. How do I know if my CVS does the 98% rule? I spent $29.99 on the buy 30 and get 10, and my receipt still says that I need to spend a cent to get the reward. So with your CVS, Stacy, did you get the reward? Did it show up in your account? Did it show up maybe on your receipt? Mine no longer, haven't printed on my receipt in years, but if you see it in your account, you're good. My receipt many times actually will still say that I need 10 cents to get the reward, but I actually got the reward. If you did not get the reward, then your store is not following the 98% rule. I've actually never seen one that wasn't following it. I've heard people say that their store wasn't following it, but I've never actually seen it. So I would hope, fingers crossed, that if you pull up your CVS account, that $10 extra care buck is there and you're good. So hopefully you will find that too. Okay, so let's back up. We're putting money in our checking account, obviously, to pay our bills. Anything that we can going into emergency fund that is hopefully in a high yield savings account, not attached to your checking account. We're also trying to hit the employer match on a 401k. This is automated through the HR department, coming out of your paycheck before you even get paid for the 401k. Now, Roth or traditional IRA, guess what? You can do this too. Now, I know money does not grow on trees, and we may have taken everything that you have to give right now, but let's hope at some point you are making more money and you are able to, your savings is fully saved. We're able to max out the 401k, or not max it, but go up to the match, and you've got some extra. Then plan option 3, however we want to go. Step 3 here is that we want to open an IRA. This could be a traditional or a Roth, and yes, you can put money in a 401k and have an IRA in the same year. There is max contributions across all of them, but I don't think any of us are going to hit that. So you can put up to $7,000 a year into an IRA, traditional or Roth. $8,000 if you are over, or if you're 50 or older. Most of us are going to be in that 7,000 range. You can do that every single year. Let's say I can do it this year, but I can't do it next year. Totally cool. You have next year to put money in for this tax year. So I actually have a bigger window than I might think. I also can already invest for next year, obviously, as well. Now, how do I decide traditional? Earlier was saying, always Roth. And I agree, 90% of the time, we want a Roth IRA and not a traditional IRA. So the difference is here, a traditional IRA, I am going to put money in before tax this year. I'm going to save on my taxes this year if I put money into a traditional IRA. This is really what the government wants you to do. They want you to see the excitement of a tax savings this year, because long term, this is not a good decision for most of us. And the reason for that is that anything that comes out of this account is taxable. The earnings and the contribution. Every dollar that comes out of a traditional IRA is taxable when you remove it. It's the same for your 401k as well. This is good for the government because that money has been sitting there and it's been growing. It's been growing a lot. You couldn't touch it for 20, 30 years, but everything that it has earned is taxable. The other option is the Roth IRA. I get no tax benefit this year to put money into a Roth IRA. Everything that I invest is after taxes. I'm just putting money basically into what feels like a savings account this year. There's no tax incentive this year, but there is in the future, because everything that Roth IRA earns is tax-free. All earnings, and you already paid taxes on the contributions. So anything that I take out of that Roth IRA after the age of 59 and a half, tax-free. It's kind of big. Now, I will warn you, we have heard whispers every year from Congress on changing the rules of a Roth IRA. So what is happening in 2025 may not be the rules for that Roth IRA when we reach 59 and a half. And that is a risk that we take because that is how our system works in America. Things can change, even though when you invested, that was the rule. So do be warned there. They have not touched these accounts, though. There's a lot of hints, a lot of people that would love to, because it is a lot of tax-free money in the end. But that's the difference between the two of them. Beyond that initial contribution and the tax savings, there are some perks to both accounts that are actually the same. So I do want you to know, if you are in an emergency situation, you're like, Jenny, I put money into an IRA, but now I need it. There's actually various reasons that you can take money out of an IRA tax penalty. So I will stick this in the comments as well for you guys. But this is a IRS list that details out your plans. And I just stuck the link in there, so you'll have it in a second too, or you can look at it afterwards, because I know that it's really tiny if you're on a phone, but it's also a lot of information. This is 401ks in one column, so 401ks here, IRAs in the next column, and when you can actually remove money from an IRA tax-free. These are exempt, like exceptions to the 10% tax for taking money out early. So you may not realize, but if you had a baby, you can take up to $5,000 out of your IRA or your 401k to handle birth or adoption expenses the year that a new baby is born. So if you are wanting to, you had a baby, you had no extra savings because you'd been maxing out your IRA or your retirement, even your 401k, you could still access that money if you wanted to. Now, all this said, this chart here, we really do not want to touch this money. The longer that it sits there, the longer that it grows, the more you have for retirement. So if you are constantly touching your retirement, then by the time you reach 59 and a half, you do not have enough money to retire. You will be working forever. So you do need to have a hands-off approach here, but I want to show you this just so that you aren't in panic mode as I'm telling you various accounts to try to get money into, and you're thinking, how can I do that? Or let's say I only got the $1,000 in the rainy day emergency fund, but something huge happened and I put all the money in the IRA. You can potentially get it back, even down to disaster recovery. So if your area is declared a federal disaster, so folks in North Carolina, South Carolina with Hurricane Helene last year, you could get up to $22,000 out of your retirement with no 10% tax penalty added to that. Again, shouldn't be your first choice, but let's just say worst case scenario, you have that ability without a tax penalty for reaching it. Another option is higher education. So I mentioned this when we talked college savings, but if your kids are working, they should have a Roth IRA. Anything that they earn in working can go into a Roth IRA. It can be used for higher education with zero tax penalty on that, and they are now saving for retirement for whatever they didn't use for college, which is huge because the longer that money is in there, the more valuable it is to them. So having an IRA at the age of 20 with even $10,000 in it, let's say from the time they turned 14, they were a bagger in Publix, that could be a chunk of money by the time they turn 59 and a half. So I would encourage you to get your kids saving there, to be considering that Roth IRA. Whatever they earned this year is the amount that they're able to put in that IRA, assuming that they're not earning $7,000. They're not earning that max of what the rest of us with full-time jobs could put in. Okay. Yes, Lily, I 100% agree. Do not touch your retirement account. That needs to be the way that you deal with it. I just want you to realize that in a crisis moment, there are reasons that you can, before you go massively in debt, there are reasons. So it is there. There is a chart. You can use it, but it needs to be worst case scenario. I've got no other options that I would be using that money. And I do want you to realize there are some differences. So that's where that chart comes into. So for example, 401k, I cannot use that for higher education. So I would not want my kids to be part of the 401k plan at wherever they're working, especially if there wasn't a match. I would want my kids putting that into an IRA and not a 401k so they could use it for college if that's how you're using it, is as a college savings account. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, trying to catch up. Charlotte saying, my husband didn't realize that his new company offered a pension. So after year 5, he's fully vested. That's pretty awesome. And it really is a rarity in today's world. So if you have that pension option available to you, that's pretty huge. And being fully vested, and keep in mind, the longer he works there, his pension amount will continue to increase. This was my husband when he first got out of college, so I will warn you that things can change there too. He has always worked in telecom, and telecom used to have a pension across all of telecom almost. So he worked for Bell South for a while, he worked for some local telecom, and then probably about 10 years ago, that pension kind of closed down, and they offered everyone a lump sum of money to then put into a IRA or 401k for them, which was a sad moment. So do realize that pensions are not always something to bank on, but you will be compensated if it does ever close, and it is pretty sweet to be 100% vested in it for sure. Okay. Yes, Lily, let's go there. So HSA is the next one. So a health savings account. Now this guy, you can only use a health savings account as a means of saving more money if you have a high deductible insurance plan. So if you have an insurance plan where you pay a copay to see a doctor, you do not qualify for a health savings account. If you have a high deductible plan, meaning that I pay everything until I meet my deductible, and then the insurance kicks in and maybe they pay 100% after you meet whatever it might be. As long as you have a high deductible plan, you can be part of a health savings account. A health savings account, I can put money in every year that I have a high deductible plan. I can actually even put it into investments. So we have health savings accounts through Health Equity. It's a pretty big company, and it allows you to invest. So we have about $2,000 that stays in cash in that account, and then anything over that just gets put into investments. That is if you are healthy and you are not planning on using this money. This is us. So we are using our health savings account really as like long-term health care. Your health savings account is a magical savings bubble that does not exist in any other form of savings. This is what I mean. When any money goes in it, it goes in tax-free, just like a 401k or an IRA, a traditional IRA. It comes off of this year's adjusted gross income, lowers how much you made, tax-free this year. All earnings from a health savings account, as long as they are used on qualifying health expenses, also come out tax-free. No tax going in and no tax coming out. There is no other savings vessel that allows this ability. So it is pretty magical, and definitely magical if you use it like a long-term savings account. So every year we max out what our health savings account allows us to put in, and we never touch it. It just sits there. Now, if something huge happened, we have it. It's there. A huge health crisis, we've got numerous years of a health savings account just sitting there. But this money can also be used for anything health related way down the road. So it can even be used for long-term care. It can be used for prescriptions, for co-pays, whatever you needed that was medical in any sort or fashion. So think about that in terms of retirement. This is really a whole nother retirement bucket because you're going to need some health care. Let's just be honest, right? When 65 rolls around, things do not work as well as they did in your 40s. So it's a magical way to have an extra little bubble of retirement savings that is literally tax-free for everything healthcare related. It can be put in investments, and you can also control the risk level of those investments. They do not allow you to be super specific, so you're not going to be able to get in there and fine tune down to which ETFs and which funds, but you can have some control over to what level risk you are okay with, and that's with Health Equity. There are other options as well. Your local bank even offers health savings accounts, but you do need to verify that they will allow you to put that into investments. It will earn way more in investments than it is ever going to earn getting a little tiny bit of interest that your local bank offers. So gonna be pretty certain that they're not the best option here. Really gonna wanna look at a lot of the online offerings that are out there. Health Equity is one of the most robust and probably one that even if you had a health savings account with your employer is who it is through. So they're that big. There's also a chance, depending on your employer, that you may even get a perk in your health savings account. So my husband's employer, if you choose a health savings account or you choose a high deductible plan, they actually will put $1,000 in your health savings account for you. So the max that you're allowed to put in there, that's now $1,000 that doesn't have to come from our paycheck. They just gave you an extra $1,000 basically. And it's your incentive for picking that high deductible plan because it's lower cost on them and an incentive for you to save more as well. So there could be some extra perks there depending on how your employer works that and something, to look into for sure. With that high deductible plan, I did get someone that asked a question recently in email. So I do want to at least hit this. We are seeing the high deductible plan and the copay plans get more and more in line with each other to where that monthly cost is about the same. So if you have a lot of health expenses and you think that you're going to end up maxing out your deductible, you need to kind of sit there with a calculator. We need to do some math. We need to get a spreadsheet out, whatever it might be, and really try to figure out which plan is going to be the best plan for our family. If we're looking at the ability to put money into a health savings account, but spending way more on insurance, then this might be an option that isn't the best option for you in this time period. So if you've got a ton of health expenses and having that copay is your better option, then take it. I will tell you on rough years where we had a kid who had 2 hip surgeries, or I had back surgery. The year with the hip surgery, we also had a baby. Goodness, there was a lot going on that year. the high deductible in the end actually was the cheaper option for us, because once we hit it, the insurance paid 100% and we paid nothing, which was pretty magical. The copay plan, those copays, they keep coming. So that is one thing to consider, is how many times are we going to see the doctor? Could we end up maxing out that deductible? And would that save you money? So things, you got to sit there and put it all on a spreadsheet, and that's a big decision on which health insurance to pick. But that health savings account should be one little mark that is helping you out as you make those decisions on that plan too. Okay. Let's see. So Stacy says, I have the high deductible insurance and an HSA. My husband is on Social Security disability. In the future, can the HSA funds be used for his medical bills? Yes. So they can be used for any medical bills, even for if you had other dependents living in the house. As long as they're used for health expenses, you're good. And they're going to give you, that HSA probably gave you like a debit card or some way to access the money right away. We cut ours up because our plan was to not use this money at all, right, for another 20 some odd years, hopefully. But you can always call and be like, hey, I need that back, and just use the debit card. As long as they see that these are health-related expenses, you're kind of doing the paperwork for yourself, no taxes on that for anyone that is on your tax, end of year tax forms, right? So anyone that is considered a dependent or a spouse, good to go from that health savings account, which is pretty great. And to go there really quick, because I didn't hit it on the health savings account, max contribution each year. If you're your own little person all by yourself, individual max is $4,300 for 2025. If you are on a family high deductible plan, the max contribution to an HSA is $8,500 for 2025. And they have been gradually increasing that, which is kind of nice. So do make sure that that's actually an increase from last year. So make sure that you check with your HR department if you are trying to max out your HSA contribution. Make sure that you have the right amount coming out of your paycheck every pay period to max that out. You cannot put in more, and if you do, there are penalties for it. So definitely make sure you have that down to the dollar, but try your best to get the money that you can into that HSA, because it is, as Lily said, a magical unicorn of savings accounts, being entirely tax-free going in and entirely tax-free coming out. I mean, seriously. And then think about, as Stacey's even saying, all of those future medical expenses that this could cover if you were being really good about putting that money in there now. And Lily too, yeah. So literally anything. So feminine care, anything that is considered like over-the-counter meds, these all would qualify for that HSA if you wanted to. I think for most of us, by the time we hit 65, we're going to have so many larger expenses that the little tiny ones probably aren't going to be something that you're going to be super concerned about. But yes, it can cover a lot of things. Now, all that said, there's one element that a lot of HR departments like to throw out as a perk, and that is a flexible spending account, an FSA. And I do want to clarify that these are not the same. So an FSA is money that you say, hey, I want you to take this out. I'm going to use this year. FSAs do not carry over. I have to use every single dollar that I've chosen to have withheld from my paycheck by the end of the year, the end of the calendar year, or it is gone. So really, that is not an element of savings that I would recommend for most people. It adds a lot of stress. You need to do a lot of figuring out as to what you think your medical expenses will be this year. The HSA is a lot more simple and totally carries over on to many, many future years from now if you choose to not spend that money. So those are very different vehicles of tax incentiveness, but that FSA is in no way equal to the HSA. Very different little creatures. Okay. And last but not least, in this whole hierarchy of savings would be going and just opening a brokerage account. So this doesn't mean it's an IRA or a 401k. This is just, hey, I did all these savings things and I still have money left over. Now we would go and open an investment account and have a random bucket of money that you had in investments. Most of us are not there, right? This means that you had all of your emergency fund handled, you did your 401k up to your match, you maxed out your traditional or your Roth IRA, hopefully your Roth, and you maxed out your HSA. By the time you did all of that, in this magical world, if there was more money left over, yes, you would then put it into a brokerage account. Most of us aren't there. So just to tell you where we were in trying to get down to investments, we're focused on other things long before we would get to that actual brokerage account. Okay. And yes, Lily is chiming in too. So to kind of explain this a little bit, for the younger folks, a Roth IRA is your better choice. For some of us, a Roth IRA is not the better choice. A traditional IRA is better. And I do want to hit on that one just to explain. So if you are in what they would say your peak earning years, and you may not realize it, but for women, that's usually between the ages of 45 and 50. You're earning the peak amount that you would earn. You're probably in the highest tax bracket that you're going to be in. And so potentially taking the tax savings now is the better option over the Roth IRA. Really depends on what tax bracket you're in as to which one is the better vessel for you in that year. The big picture, though, is how long is it going to sit there before I start withdrawing it? So even if you're 45, this money is still going to sit there for basically 15 years before you start to withdraw it. It's going to take about 7 years they say, to double its value, assuming it was earning 10% interest. So let's say that the money that you put in when you were 45, that first year when you were 45, it doubled in value by the time you turned 59. Those would be magical. We never had a recession years, but that's what we like to plan on, right? Magical numbers. It's doubled in value. That is what your earnings are going to, and the original contribution is now going to be taxed when it comes out of that traditional IRA, versus all of that would be tax-free in the Roth. So those are the numbers that you have to play with as you decide. And guys, there's a ton of calculators out there. So just Google a Roth versus traditional IRA calculator and plug it in for yourself to decide which one you want to use. But the younger you are, the more likely that you want to look at that Roth IRA versus the traditional, and in enjoying the years and years and years of growth that is going to come out tax-free. Okay. One other perk of the Roth, though, as we go through. Traditional IRAs have RMDs. They have required minimum distributions. Starting at the age of 72, they did just bump that up, meaning that come 72, let's say you don't even need that much money, you barely leave the house, you garden, who knows, you still have to take a certain percentage of your retirement in a distribution every single year from a traditional IRA. Currently, Roth IRAs do not have required minimum distributions. Now, for most of us, you're probably going to be taking money out. It's just that they are forcing you to take a certain percentage out. Their goal is that you're going to use it and not pass it on. Remember, the government, they really do want the money from this. Now, the Roth IRA is never giving them money. So there's no incentive for the government to give you a required minimum distribution. It can sit there. The difference, though, is that it will have required minimum distributions after you die when your Roth is inherited by someone else, or if you inherit someone's Roth. You will be required to draw down on that until it is gone within 10 years. You cannot hold on to any inherited IRA past 10 years now. So this is where the government's making changes. These did not exist even 10 years ago, but they do now. because they do not like these long-term tax shelter retirement accounts. They would like this as income now. So do realize that these changes have been made. And if you haven't already hit it and had a inherited IRA, you will quickly realize it. It's really not a good thing for most people, but it is how they are treated now. Okay. So we hit a lot of things on that one. And for some of you, that may have felt really overwhelming, but that's a lot of different accounts and a lot of tips. Let's hit one more thing though. And again, just baby steps here, kind of going back to the beginning. I know we hit a lot of things talking about maxing out accounts. And if you're in a boat where literally you are just trying to buy groceries this week, remember that anything that you're saving is better than nothing. So set little goals, even on your budget. Like, hey, let's shave $25 off of the grocery budget and immediately save that money. So automate that savings. Maybe it's not from your HR or from a paycheck. Instead, you could go into SoFi and you could set up a recurring transfer from one bank to another. You can make it tiny so that it's not stressing you out. But I can automate it to where every week I'm going to put $20 in my SoFi account every week. Hopefully, I'm going to find $20 to save if you're down to the dollar right now on your expenses. But you can go very tiny on these automated transfers so that you are slowly building up savings. If you find at the end of the month, hey, I did $20 a week and it wasn't painful and I actually have a little bit of extra, the next month we could change those automated transfers. You do this on the SoFi side or on your high yield savings account side. Automated transfer, I could change it to $25 a week. And you may find as you get used to that little bit gone and the amount and the balance being a little tiny bit lower, that you are spending a little bit less, but all of a sudden you're checking your savings account and there's way more there than you had remembered because you've been slowly putting money in week by week by week. So while we talked about a lot of accounts and a lot of ways to get big money put aside, right? If you are not in a big money moment, then let's talk little money with little bites each and every single week going into that savings account, going to your HR department, and little bites going into your 401k as well. Start at that 1% mark. Work your way up to whatever your employer match is. But start small, see what that paycheck looks like the next time you get paid. Kind of realize, okay, the 401k, it only took like $40, but it also lowered the amount that it took on taxes, so it didn't feel quite as bad. And so after a few months of getting used to that amount, let's bump it to 2%. So do not feel like you need to jump into the deep end and start finding money that does not exist, right? Little tiny steps to save little tiny bits still adds up to having way more in savings than you did when you started. So that's my encouragement for all of us. We start early, we start small, and we build it up to where we realize, you know what? This did not hurt at all. I could do this, and in the end, I did do it. That's really what you want to see. Okay, we hit a lot of things and a lot of accounts tonight. So I hope that this has been helpful and not overwhelming, and kind of going through everything that I had. I think I hit everything that I had written down too. So I'm going to go ahead and call it for the night. I will be back on tomorrow with all of the deals that are running at CVS and Walgreens. That's a great place to start in terms of finding more money, right? So we've got free shampoo and conditioner this week. We've got huge gift card deals at CVS, 50-cent toothpaste, really good razor deals. It's a good week, a really good week for paper goods too. So please make plans to join me or at least watch that video after the fact. That will be tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern is when I go live. So Tuesdays at 3 for Walgreens and CVS deals. So hopefully you can catch that and head to the store this week. It's a good list. All of those lists have been fully updated though. So if you head to Southern Savers and you don't even want to wait for the video, go to the CVS list or the Walgreens list. I've got all the new coupons and all the new deals done. I finished them right before dinner tonight, so they're ready to go for you guys. So I will pop back on and hopefully see most of you tomorrow. If you've got other things that I didn't hit or other questions, please send me an email. Always happy to answer. I've even had people email me and ask me, Jenny, what funds would you recommend? Because we can go there. We just didn't get there tonight. Happy to do that. So jenny@southernsavers.com. And my husband would probably cringe that I didn't start this with I am not a certified financial planner. I'm not, but it's actually one of my goals in life. So aim to get there because I love helping people figure out how to get more money in savings. So hopefully this helped tonight, and start small, guys. Anything is better than nothing. So you guys have a great night, and I will talk to you